Your thoughts and your views and your perspectives are very interesting, and I'm sure specifically these topics which you shared on B2B
Yeah.
marketing and sales and services marketing and technology are going to be helpful to those people who are looking
Yeah.
for research topics. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. Hi everyone, my name is Anita and I'm so happy and excited to welcome Professor Deva Rangarajan, who is currently working as Professor of B2B Sales, and he is also Academic Director of the Masters in International Negotiation at IESEG School of Management, Paris. I welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our request, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to learn about your journey so far, and I can see something very interesting in your
Yes.
background. I was going through your profile, which talks about that you have done
Uh,
your bachelor's of engineering in mechanical engineering from
yeah.
University of Madras, and then you
Mm.
straightway jumped into the PhD program in marketing, and you completed it from the University of Houston,
Yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your journey, because
Yeah.
from Chennai to America, from
Yes.
mechanical engineering to
Yeah.
marketing,
Yeah.
is this journey serendipitous or did you plan for it?
A lot of things. First of all, Manita, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I have followed a couple of your videos of other faculty members, and it's been very, very interesting to see the journeys that all of them have taken as well. This initiative of yours and your partners, I think, is very, very interesting, very unique as well. So good luck on that. And thank you for choosing me to be part of this. So
Thank you so much for accepting our request.
absolutely. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because when I was talking about it, and I was thinking to myself, okay, since you want to talk about journeys, of course, how would a person from a city in India like Chennai go all the way across different parts of the world? And you'll be surprised, and I'm sure that not surprised as much these days. It's no longer a surprise at the sheer number of Indian members or people of Indian origin in terms of faculties in different parts of the world doing fantastic jobs. So I'm just one amongst the many out there. So my journey is pretty much like most people, but my journey into the world of academia was much more serendipitous. So essentially, you'll see that there's a map of Chennai at the back. It used to be called Madras then,
Mhm.
when I left India way back then. So yeah, I did my studies at a business, at a engineering school. Again, like most South Indians, your only way out is engineering. So I did mechanical engineering because my dad was a mechanical engineer. So essentially, I said, okay, my dad is a good man, so why don't I follow in his footsteps? And
Uh-huh.
so essentially, I did end up working for a year and a half, and that's something that my LinkedIn profile might not say, but I worked for a year and a half in sales. Loved every moment of it. I transitioned from being a person who did mechanical engineering, passed and then got a job as a sales engineering trainee. It was one of the best things. Again, I did not go into an engineering program thinking I'm going to be a sales engineer trainee. Fell into it. It was a job. At that time, we were happy if you got a job. I was happy I got a job. Loved it to the point. Then I was thinking to myself, I was seeing some money coming into my pocket. Of course, you know how it is. You
Yeah,
earn money, but you give it to your parents, right? At the end of
yeah.
the day, you go back and you ask them again back for the very money that you've earned. And essentially, I was doing that. I was very happy. I was doing well in my job. And essentially, I had a very, very good friend of mine. In fact, one of my roommates while I studied. So, University of Madras at that time, I think I'll be doing the university a disservice because now it is called VIT, stands for Vellore Institute of Technology. And at that time, it was part of University of Madras. Now it's a separate. So I studied there, and then I came back, and one of my roommates out there while I was studying ended up going to Houston essentially, and he was there and he was constantly asking, suggesting that if I wanted to study more, that maybe I should come over there. And I was perfectly happy doing the things that I wanted to do. But my dad always, when he was young, he wanted to study more, but due to financial circumstances, his father could not afford a plane ticket. He actually got admitted to a university in Canada way back in the 70s,
Okay.
late 60s and early 70s, and he never got a chance to go there. He wanted his son to also study, and essentially, even though I was not necessarily interested, I said, you know what, okay. And then I said, where do I want to apply? So since my friend was there in Houston, I said, okay, it's really easy. Let me apply. Let me go there. And I ended up
Mhm.
going to Houston just because my parents wanted, my father wanted me to do it. I said, okay, let me go along with it. It was not a very clear plan. I ended up going there to do my master's in engineering. Felt that the way we are trained in India at that time to do engineering as against how they're trained to do a master's and everything else in the United States, probably in many parts of the world as well. And maybe things are changing in India as well. So I don't want to comment about that. But I was not necessarily cut out for that. I struggled. And again, talk about serendipities. First of all, going to Houston was because my friend was there, because my dad wanted me to do it. It's not necessarily a plan that I thought I hatched in my head, said, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what happened. I end up there. It is very it so happens that I was not very happy there. I was struggling, and then but then I had to stay because in the United States it's very simple. You have to be enrolled in a class if you have to stay in status.
Mhm.
So I did not want to get booted out. So essentially, I was looking for opportunities, and I then ran into a PhD student, a doctoral student in marketing. Now he's now the president of the Illinois Institute of Technology, which is a very good university in
Mhm.
the United States. His name is Raji Chambani, Dr. Raji Chambani, and he was telling me, why don't you consider doing a PhD? And again, talk of serendipities. Again, it's something where I was not necessarily planning for it. But then when the opportunity came, I did it. I was lucky enough to get into the program. And then after that, of course, I did my time because I did not have my bachelor's. I did not have my bachelor's in business or an MBA. So I had to take 1 year equivalent courses in business.
Mhm.
And then should have been a 4 year program, but I started enjoying life. What do I mean by that is not that other people don't enjoy life, but
Yeah.
growing up in India at that point in time, you're not necessarily exposed to a lot of things. So suddenly there I was. They gave me a credit card. I could spend on things. I could actually see newer things that I only saw on TV and stuff like that growing up in India. So a 4 year program ended up becoming a 5 year program. But hey, I enjoyed every moment of it as well.
Which year was
And
this?
then this was so essentially, this is 2003 by the time I
Okay.
graduated, right? So essentially, so I left India in 97. So one
Okay.
year of engineering, that was 98. Then after that, I did 1 year of 98 to 99 was most of my master's courses. And then there were 4 years. I could have done it in 3 years, but then I was, as I said, I
Enjoying
took
life.
according to me, right?
Yes.
Different people have different versions of it. I should be
Mhm.
very careful about that as well. So I really liked what I did, and then yeah, 2002. So usually the academic market in certain parts of the world, at least, is for the most part, is if you want to go in for in 2003 when you graduate, you start looking for jobs in 2002, and essentially I was looking for jobs, but then I had a roommate who was actually a French national. And then I had another roommate who was also a French national, and through them I got interested in Europe. And so I said, why not look for jobs in Europe? And I
Mhm.
applied, got into a job in Belgium, where immediately after graduation, I ended up in Belgium. So that's my trajectory up to the point I graduated and got into academia.
Mhm. So tell me more about your choice of your research topic, because it is more
Yeah,
towards sales, which is
yeah,
very interesting because we talk about a lot of other things, but you are doing it in a specific sales and
yeah.
marketing and then services.
Indeed.
And tell me more about that
Yeah.
evolution, like how it happened.
Absolutely. So essentially, I'd done something in sales, and the way, at least, the University of Houston, where I got my PhD from. So the way it works in the United States, of course, is, at least at the University of Houston, again different. Again, I cannot just say United States, because that could be something that's followed in different universities as well. You'll see that when you talk to scholars who are trained in different parts of the world, or even different universities have their own take on how to groom their PhD students. And so what happened is, that when I started, the way the University of Houston worked was very simple. They said, you might have previous experience in a specific domain, you might have worked somewhere, but we still want you to do like a circuit, right? You go around working with different professors who work on different topics. So in the domain of marketing, the three predominant areas at that point in time would be marketing modeling, then there was one, strategic marketing, and then of course there was one which was consumer behavior, right? These were the three topics. So you started working with each one of them, and then there was a faculty member who had joined there, and sales is one of those things which is, for lack of a better word, it still is seen as not something that is worthwhile studying in a business school for many, for whatever reasons as it is. Marketing is much more interesting, and for lack of a better word, more sexy. And so essentially sales is seen as something that anybody who can talk and get the job done. And so you do not have that many professors doing work in the area of sales. So essentially, so you're a combination of things. So you had universities asking you to go around doing a little bit of getting to know the different professors, working with them a little bit, and then working on them. And so essentially, I ended up doing all this. And then maybe a year into my circulation, I found my dissertation chair, Professor Eli Jones, who went on to become the dean at of the business school in Arkansas, in Louisiana State University, then in Texas A&M. And essentially, he was the one who was working in sales, and finally I found what I was looking for. But the idea was that it was not something that was straight away. I did sales and I went in. It is possible. It is possible that you could do that. These days, sales is, you have more number of faculty doing it, but at the university there, they felt that you came in, but maybe you will fall in love with something else along the way, which I think is very, very right. Because just because you happen to know something, that's the only thing that you've known. Whereas what you're going to be working on, and a PhD, and if you choose a career in academia after that, it has to be something that you're at least passionate about, because you're going to be spending significant amounts of time with returns that are actually pretty spread out, right? You put in an amount of work for a really top journal, it may take 2-3 years sometimes. So you're not going to see any returns coming in. So you better be passionate about that. So it's only right that that's how they choose to make that happen as well. So that's how it started there in terms of sales and everything else. And of course, once you start doing it, times evolve, technologies evolve, businesses evolve, so too the topics that need to be researched. And so, of course, your research interests also evolve from there.
That is true. So I have a subsequent question on your after this, because we have actually experienced to more than 2 years of pandemic now, and the overall understanding about marketing and sales has significantly changed during these times. What do you think, like any future research topics which you see in specifically into B2B sales, or in services marketing related to technology, if you want to throw some light on that?
Right. So there's a lot of topics that come up, right? Again, depending upon the audience that's watching it. If you come from a sales background, or you might come from a services background, and essentially the nature of the area that you're working in and the kind of journals that you go after is going to dictate specific areas that you will be working on as well. You'll also have the generalists who can hopefully, if you have sufficient experience working, you can marry both. You can marry both the sales side and the service side, because at the end of the day, in an organization, both the sales and the service department, if both of them exist mainly to keep your customers happy, right? But from that perspective, we all have one kind of goal, except that in our fields have very specific journals catering to specific audiences. And essentially that's how we then go in. And that's the whole idea of academic research, right? in the interest of rigor, we try to focus on a specific area. We try to control for a lot of things and see specifically, if I do this, will it lead to certain things? Can I study that as well? So from that perspective, so essentially some of the topics in sales, and again, sales can be broken down, as is the case of anything, is there is the sales person as the focal point of analysis as against the sales organization, right? So from the viewpoint of the sales person, there's a lot of stuff that talking about what kind of skill sets will be needed from your salespeople moving forward, right? What kind of digital capabilities do they need to have? How should they go about engaging with their customers using these new technologies without losing track of what is the core aspect of sales, right? That's something that you have to learn to deal with. How do I then factor in different technologies, especially with new predictive technologies, prescriptive technologies like AI, artificial intelligence, coming in to play a role in shaping the sales function? What kind of skill sets, like analytical skill sets, is something that is increasingly being asked of sales people. So essentially, that's essentially something that you see happening in the domain of sales people, salesperson, sales professionals. From the viewpoint of sales organizations, it is how do I structure my sales organization? What kind of new roles are coming in because of all these changes happening? How do I roll out digital transformation projects without losing track of either the customer or run the risk of alienating or making my sales organization unhappy to the point where they're not being professional or helping their customers, or worse. I'm sure that there's a talk right now which is making the rounds, which came out of the US, called the Great Resignation or the Big Quit, which of course is not directly linked to this, but it's got to do with how people are willing to quit their jobs if they're not happy because there are a lot more opportunities coming up, right? So that's from the viewpoint of sales. From the viewpoint of services also, because we're working much more in B2B services, I am not going to comment about all the possibilities that exist in the world of business to consumer. I keep saying B2B, but business to business is B2B. In the world of B2B, how is technology shaping the customer interaction with their service providers? What can self-services do where customers can themselves have access to a lot more information? How are new technologies like AI being used in their interactions with both the service personnel as well as the customer? And of course, dealing with all these are going to be issues that I think are going to be interesting moving forward in terms of customer engagement in B2B services. So these would be some areas, in my opinion, that will play an important role moving forward.
So I believe that this particular sales space is going to increase, and digital sales are going to take or maybe replace the old one, but who knows? So I think a lot of food for thought for young scholars and
Absolutely.
marketing and sales, specifically into B2B sales. We have already had some serious conversations, and I want to know some interesting from your own personality side. So we are going to have some light conversations now.
Yeah.
It is going to be a rapid fire, and wherein you have to tell about the questions in maybe one statement or maybe one word, if it is possible. Okay, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So my first question to you in this rapid fire is that one piece of advice which you would like to give to your 20-year-old self.
Be focused.
Okay.
So that's it. So it's one word, is be focused. At 20, the whole world is your oyster. You're going to be drawn in so many different directions. Be focused if you can.
Okay, great. So an advice you received from your teacher and you still follow.
Be passionate about your work.
And an advice for the upcoming scholars.
Enjoy your research.
Okay. Tell me more about sales skills are life skills. What does that mean?
So essentially, all of us, whether we like it or not, you might think that you're not in sales, but when you go convince a company to recruit you, you're in sales. If you ever happen to meet the person that you would like to be with, and convince them that you are the best possible option as against the whatever other people there are. That's a life skill as well. That's sales is something that you do. When you try to negotiate for a raise, when you try to persuade somebody into your way of thinking, that's again a sales skill, which of course there's no need for a transaction involving money or anything, but those are the kind of skills that you need to have and you practice every day without realizing it as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think we can close this conversation with this insight that we all do sales every day in
Yeah.
every moment,
Yeah.
and that helps us sail through our lives as well.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for um, um, your thoughts and your views and your perspectives are very interesting. And I'm sure, specifically these topics which you shared on B2B
Yeah.
marketing and sales and services marketing and technology are going to be helpful to those people who are looking
Yeah.
for research topics.
Absolutely. And I just want to leave with one thing. I think one of the things that people sometimes ask me is, what is my favorite article of all time?
Yeah,
And
please.
that's one of the things that I say. And does not matter if you have to be in marketing in academia or that. There's an article written by a gentleman called Theodore Levitt, and it's an article called Marketing
Marketing
Myopia. It's
myopia.
indeed. So that's, I'm sure that since you happen to know the name as well, and it's a paper that was written in 1960, but never has it been more relevant than it is today, which talks about how you need to be a lot more customer centric and customer focused. And it's wonderful, right? It's an example. When I usually give it to my executive audience, they always say, "Well, this was written in 1960," and I say, "Take a look at examples of Uber, or if you're looking at Zomato or Swiggy and things like that. Those were businesses that did not exist then, but they became existing right now because of advances in technology. Uber is an example. Airbnb is an example. All the kind of things that we see happening right now are examples that we never thought would be possible. 3D printing. Hey, I used to, when in India we first had Star TV, that was way back in 91 or 92, I believe. And we had Star and all that kind of stuff. And then we watched Star Trek. And then at the time they would actually go in and they would actually they would put some kind of a token or something and they would get food, which is almost coming out. And you're thinking to start, wow. And now you have 3D printing, where you can actually go in and you can actually put in the cartridges and then it prints out food for you. So essentially, things that we thought were like, wow, are becoming possible right now. And he wrote an article talking about how we should be looking at things and they're much more relevant today. And he gives it, the article written in 1960 had examples from 1860. So I think it's a timeless one. I think that is something that, in my opinion, is one of the best articles that I have read. I still recommend it to every executive audience that I teach to as well.
I remember reading this article in my PhD
Indeed.
first year in marketing management course. I remember. Yeah.
It's at least good that they gave it to you in a PhD course, because unfortunately it is written in Harvard Business Review. In many schools, you will see that Harvard Business Review is not something that's given to doctoral students, because you would have much more traditional, hardcore academic journals. Harvard Business Review is seen much more.
So it was in IIM Indore. I completed my PhD from IIM Indore. The first year is with the PGP students. So in the marketing, all the management MBA students, we read this particular article. Yes, not in the PhD program.
Exactly, right. So essentially, so that's pretty much what it is. But I always say that kind of gives you an idea about that's my view on this as well. Anyway, but thank you. I just wanted to share that with you.
No, it is. Thank you. You shared about this article, and I'm sure a lot of people will now read, because when in this journey of PhD, we hardly talk about the realistic perspective and real examples which are covered in these kind of articles written in the Harvard Business Review. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you so much, and good luck. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. It's great to see you all here. Thank you for watching our work. If you have not subscribed to Inkpothub Media, then please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel and support research celebrations in India.